Oklahoma Newsroom, you're watching The Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Barry Trammell, and we are brought to you by Papa John's Pizza. You can go online anytime and order your pizza at papajohns.com. It's time for We Pick 'em, Barry, and we're going to go a little deviation this week. We're going to go true-false on the Pick 'em. So let's get right to it with this true-false. True-false, does the Big 12 have a football championship game in 2016, so after this next season?
I think it is false. The Big 12 won't have a title game in 2016 because the Big 12 needs one. And this league never does what it should do. It always makes the wrong decision. So I think it's pretty clear that the Big 12, it's not a case of defining the champion. It's a case of the 13th game is needed. And if TCU and Baylor had played last December in Jerry's world for the title, I think the winner would have been in the Football Four. Ohio State wouldn't have been. History would have been rewritten. But it's looking like the Big 12 wants to stay the course and sort of survey the landscape, not have one. Of course, won't have one this year. Don't want to have one next year. To me, at the end of 16, it could be 3 straight years the Big 12 is shut out of the national semifinals. Yeah,
you know, I think some people think that the Big 12 talking about adding that championship game, they're saying, well, it's just reactionary. You know, what happened a year ago may not happen again, and that's true. I mean, it's entirely possible the Big 12 may not have a team that's worthy of the football championship this season, and so it doesn't become an issue. But the Big 12 for a long time, when they first started having the championship game, I was against it then because they were kind of on their own. I can't remember exactly if any other conferences had them, but it was rare. I think they were mostly mid-major conferences that were doing the championship game. And I felt like if the rest of the conferences weren't, the Big 12 was really taking a risk. Well, I feel the same way now. The rest of the power conferences have championship games. If it was 2 did and 2 didn't, well then, you know, make up your mind. But all the other power conferences have that championship game. To me, it's not reactionary. It's just smart business to go ahead and add a championship game. I'll say true. All right, let's go back to the true-false, Barry. Does Sam Bradford open the season as the Eagles' quarterback? I think they drafted you to play quarterback as well. So true-false on Sam Bradford.
I am going to say true. Sam does open the season as the Eagle quarterback.
What do they have, 16 quarterbacks on the roster?
I don't necessarily think they want him. I can't imagine. I think Chip Kelly traded for Sam Bradford in hoping to do a deal, maybe for Marcus Mariota all the way up to number 2. But didn't pan out. Now he's got Bradford, Mark Sanchez. I think Bradford gets the nod over Sanchez. I don't know that Kelly's got a lot of other chips to play. I think it's going to be Sammy B. And Bradford has a chance to excel if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm going to say true as well, and many of the same reasons. But I do think that Sam Bradford in this system, if he stays healthy, he could really do well. I mean, Chip Kelly, although, you know, fast breaking to the point that we haven't seen a lot of in the NFL, but this is where we've seen Sam excel. I mean, he wins that Heisman in a year when they are just, you know, getting up and down the field, no huddle, moving around. So I think as long as the knee injuries are behind him, I think he could really have some success, and I think he will be that starter on day 1 in Philly. All right, Barry, true, false, this one. Does Adrian Peterson open the season as the Vikings tailback?
I'm going to say true, and I'm completely convinced of this. I think there are 2 major reasons why Peterson opens as the Viking tailback. One is the money he makes. People don't want to take on a $12 million salary for a tailback, and 2, people don't want to give away a lot of assets, whether it was draft picks now, it'd have to be something else. Draft picks then, now it would have to be something else. I think you're asking a team to do a lot to make Adrian Peterson their tailback. Financial and asset-wise, people aren't willing to do it. I think Minnesota's going to have to ride Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, I'm going to say true as well on this one, but, you know, I really think that it's probably going to be, if it's not Minnesota, it's Dallas in my mind, because Jerry Jones, I think, is one of the few owners that would take on a running back at that kind of price. You know, he seems to be willing to financially do those sorts of things. But I think that you saw in the draft that Dallas had that they have great belief in their offensive line, that they can basically protect and stand in front of you know, a defense for just about anybody. I mean, they're going to be really good, and I don't think that they need an Adrian Peterson to be the running back. And at his age, Barry, I mean, we've talked about it before. he's sort of on the upper crust of what running backs have been able to do, but still, he's getting older, and you got to wonder after a year out of football, how does his body respond? Is he fresh or is he rusty? Does that cause injury? I think a lot of teams would look at that as a really, really big risk. All right, true, false. Does Russell Westbrook have a problem with the Thunder coaching search? Oh, Barry, this one had everybody up in arms.
I'm going to say false because it doesn't pass the smell test. It just does not. You really think the Thunder would talk to Kevin Durant and not Russell Westbrook about this? I mean, you really think they're that stupid?
That's the kind of thing Charlotte does.
Yeah, it's idiotic.
Yeah.
I mean, it just completely is absurd on the premise. Now, is it possible that one of the superstars was upset with the coaching change and not the other? I think that's possible.
Yeah.
But to tell me that Russell Westbrook is upset because he wasn't consulted and Kevin Durant was, that's absurd. The Thunder doesn't work that way. The Thunder doesn't do stupid stuff. This is an idiotic maneuver. Sam Presti is not going to do stuff that's idiotic.
Well, and I think, too, it's possible that Russell Westbrook might have a problem with the coach that they hired. Maybe he doesn't really care or, doesn't really have a great belief in Billy Donovan. I don't know. Maybe he really had somebody else in mind, and so when they really didn't look elsewhere when Billy Donovan was the guy, maybe he wasn't really comfortable with that. But I agree, Barry. The idea that he wouldn't have the same sort of contact that Kevin Durant did, no. I don't think Sam Presti does that. I would be shocked if that were the case. All right, lastly, Barry, true, false. Are the Spurs finished as a Western Conference contender?
I'm going to say true.
Ooh.
Unless they get LaMarcus Aldridge in free agency, which I think they want. I don't know if Aldridge is headed to San Antonio, but if the Spurs don't add a big-time star, I think they're a little bit in trouble. I think Tony Parker is well past his prime. I think Manu Ginobili is well past his prime and maybe near the end. And I think Tim Duncan is 39 years old, and even though he was fantastic against the Clippers, can you expect him to do that at age 40? I think the Spurs are in trouble.
Well, I'm going to say, are they finished as a Western Conference contender? I'm going to say false. I still think as long as you've got Greg Popovich coaching, and even if Tim Duncan decides he's done, even if he's retiring, you've still got great players in Parker, Ginobili, Kawhi Leonard's on the rise. Danny Green continues to play well. Their bench is solid. Now, they'll probably have some upheaval, some change of guys in the offseason. You expect that to happen because it always happens. But I still think that their footing is solid. It may just look different next year. And frankly, wasn't that time going to come at some point? I mean, weren't they going to eventually have to switch things up, whether the big three remain, but there's a fourth wheel? I mean, I don't know what it's going to look like. But again, as long as Greg Popovich, R.C. Buford are still in the black and the silver, I still think you got to consider those guys a contender. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoma.